This is the Stephen A. Smith Show podcast.
I'm Stephen A. Everybody, welcome to the latest edition of the Stephen A. Smith Show, coming at you as I love to do every weekday over the airwaves of ESPN Radio, 250 plus markets across the United States of America, plus ESPN Radio on Sirius XM, Channel 80. Number to call up as always is 888-SAY-ESPN. That's 888-729-3776. Got a jam-packed show coming your way today. Make no mistake about it. I will definitely get into some NFL stuff because Jameis Winston done got himself into trouble. I shouldn't say done got himself into trouble because this incident happened more than a couple of years ago. But nevertheless, he's in the news. He's about to get himself suspended. So that is something that we will definitely be talking about here. But the story, all right, is the NBA draft. The story is the NBA draft that took place last night at the Barclays Center inside of Brooklyn, New York. Okay? That is the story. And when you analyze it and you break it down and you look at everything that has transpired, DeAndre Ayton out of Arizona went number one to Phoenix, as I thought. They better had taken him because that was the obvious pick. Can't teach 7-1 with those offensive skills. Just can't do it. Can't pass on him. Can't pass on him. Number two, Marvin Bagley out of Duke went to Sacramento. Some people say he's a 20-10 guy. He'll obviously have no shortage of energy. So he'll come out, he'll give you what he's got to give you. And then things got real interesting because the Atlanta Hawks had the number 3 pick, but instead of picking it for themselves, they ultimately picked it for the Dallas Mavericks because this kid out of the Euro League, all right, this kid, Luka Doncic, this 6'7" European dude who appears to be some all-purpose dude playing 4 different positions. The Atlanta Hawks drafted him, but not for themselves. What they did was they drafted him, and then they swapped the pick with the Dallas Mavericks, who moved up 2 spaces from the 5th slot to the 3rd slot in the NBA draft, forfeiting a protected first-round pick in the future in the process, just to get their hands on this kid Doncic. Atlanta was salivating over Trae Young out of Oklahoma. So they ended up grabbing him with the 5th overall pick anyway. He was 3rd, but he really was 5th. And there is what you have. Doncic is a Dallas Maverick, and to me, that will be the story to watch. Some people look at winners and losers of this year's draft, Dallas Mavericks. According to ESPN's own Mike Schmitz, the Mavericks are the clear winner of the night. They got arguably the top prospect in the draft. And we'll have Rick Carlisle, head coach for the Dallas Mavericks, on the show today to explain what their thinking was, why they went to the extent that they did to get this kid, and what they think he's going to bring to the table. You still got veterans in Dallas like Dirk Nowitzki, J.J. Barea, and Wesley Matthews. So they're going to help Doncic out, transitioning from international play into the NBA play. I'll ask Rick Carlisle about that. But clearly when you hear this stuff, I can't wait to see this guy Doncic play. I've never seen him play. And I've learned my lesson because when I went off about the Knicks grabbing Kristaps Porzingis years ago, everybody wanted to get on me. You said he couldn't play. I did not say that. I specifically said I had not seen Porzingis play. My issue wasn't with Porzingis' skill set. It was with the fact that I hadn't seen him play, and Phil Jackson went on the air and was telling people that he was going to be a 4 to 5 year project, as if we had 4 to 5 years to wait. I didn't know Porzingis was going to be this good because I hadn't seen him. And Phil Jackson evidently didn't know he was going to be this good because he was trying to buy himself a 4 to 5 year cushion so he could steal even more money from James Dolan. Then I wasn't having it. In Doncic's case, I'm not going to go there. The reality is that as you look at this kid perform, if this kid can play, then you got yourself a player. Somehow, some way along the way, Dallas is going to have to come up with some free agents. Rick Carlisle and Mark Cuban, 2 guys. Rick Carlisle's place, I love him. He and I go back more than 20 years. I love the man. In Mark Cuban's case, I respect him. And I know him a little bit, and I like Mark. That combined with Dallas being the great city that it is, the only thing wrong with the city of Dallas is this nauseating, disgusting Dallas Cowboys fan base. Other than that, the city's phenomenal. It's a great metropolis, great people, beautiful city, no state income tax in any of those cities in Texas. Dallas is one of them. That's great. So your money goes a longer way. Dallas is phenomenal. If it wasn't for their contamination on the part of Cowboys fans, they'd be all right. They really would. And let's hope that they're not contaminating the Mavs organization. These damn delusional, nauseating fans that could go 1-15 or 3-13 and go to the toilet, pass gas, and then come out of the bathroom. You know we're going to win the Super Bowl next year, right? Can't stand them. They make me sad. I hate Cowboy fans. I had to tell Jerry Jones, it's nothing against you personally. It's them damn Cowboy fans. I just can't stand them. I hate them. They make it on my nerves. Nobody gets on my nerves more than a Cowboy fan. Nobody. So if there's no shame, they can go winless and it'll still be like, how about them Cowboys? No shame. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. But I digress. My point is that the Dallas Mavericks are a different animal. The Dallas Mavericks, we're going to see what happens. Some people think this kid, Doncic, is the real deal. We'll find out. I got news for you. I don't have problems with what the Knicks did. This kid, Kevin Knox, can play. Now, in a perfect world, would I have preferred Michael Porter Jr.? Yes. No, my man Jay Williams feels that way, along with various others. How could the Knicks have passed up on it? I got a better question for y'all. Y'all sure that it's good? That it's not good, rather, that the Knicks passed up on Michael Porter Jr. when Jerry West passed up on him twice? Clippers had the 12th and 13th pick in the NBA draft, and Jerry West passed up on Michael Porter Jr. twice. They had 2 picks and passed up on Michael Porter Jr. Now, I don't know about the rest of y'all, but I'm here to tell you, Jerry West knows some damn basketball. You know, Jerry West, who went to 8 or 9 NBA finals. You know, Jerry West, the silhouette, even though it should be Michael Jordan at this point. You know, Jerry West, the executive extraordinaire who stole Shaquille O'Neal from Orlando Magic like a thief in the night, who rebuilt the Lakers, who's widely recognized as one of the great executives the game of the NBA has ever seen. You know that Jerry West who plucked the great Hubie Brown out of the ashes and reminded everybody that Hubie Brown has forgotten more basketball than most of us know? You know that Jerry West, who was a consultant and a contributing architect to Golden State's dynasty? You know that Jerry West, who's now come over to the Clippers and is a consultant at 80 years of age, who's forgotten more basketball than most of us know? That Jerry West. Do you know that guy passed up on Michael Porter Jr. twice with the 12th and the 13th pick in the draft? Why? I mean, I got to do my homework. I got to make sure I find out that it was him, as opposed to Doc Rivers and Lawrence Frank. But I'm here to tell you something right now. Jerry West knows some basketball. And if he didn't take Michael Porter, assuming he had the power to do so, if he passed on taking Michael Porter Jr. with the 12th or the 13th pick, I got to tell you something. I'm cool with the Knicks having passed up on him at number 9. Kevin Knox, Jay Williams brought up the want-to factor. Jay Williams brought up the fact that, you know, Kevin Knox doesn't seem to have had it. You know, the Knicks picked him, and that's great. We get all of that. We understand it. But at the same time, S.A., because that's what Jay Williams called me. Just like my man Shabazz in Miami calls me that, along with various others. I love it when they call me S.A. They say, hey, this guy, Kevin Knox, we don't know whether he has it or not. That's what we asking you about. We don't know about this kid. And if they're saying that, I got to pay attention to that. I really, really do. I got to look at this kid and wonder what he brings to the table. I saw him flat out ball out against West Virginia. What was that game? January 27th at West Virginia. Hit 11 and 17 shots from the field. 5 of 8 from three-point range, finished with 34 in a win at West Virginia. I got to pay attention to that. I got to pay attention to the 25 he dropped early in the year. I got to pay attention to the 23 he dropped against Arkansas, the 21 he dropped against Missouri, the 22 he dropped against Ole Miss, the 25 he dropped in the NCAA tournament, before only putting on 8 against Buffalo and then 13 against Kansas State, who they lost to, by the way. All I'm saying to you is that Kevin Knox, having the size on him that he has, kid is a legit 6'9", 215. If you're 6'9", 215 and you can shoot, I like you in a New York Knicks uniform. Porter, would I have liked him? Yes, ladies and gentlemen, if Porzingis wasn't hurt. If Porzingis wasn't hurt, I'd have liked him a lot. My problem is that Porzingis was hurt, isn't expected to be back before January of 2019. So if I draft a dude that only played 3 games in college because he had back surgery and he had hip surgery, how confident should I feel about him going a grueling 82 games during the regular season? It's a question mark for me. I'm not sure about that. I'm just not sure. And if I'm not sure, then I got to pass. Now, having said all of that, I will say this. If you are the Denver Nuggets, if you are a fan of the Denver Nuggets, okay? If you are a fan of the Denver Nuggets, I got news for you. This is not a bad day. Denver went 46-36 last year. They're a good team. They missed the playoffs on the last game of the season when they had a game at Minnesota. And obviously Minnesota was playing for the right to get in as well. So having home court advantage helped them, and they propelled them over the Denver Nuggets. But ladies and gentlemen, Gary Harris can ball. Will Barton is not a joke either. Jokic can ball. I'm here to tell you right now, Minnesota, what he was doing to Karl Anthony Towns, Jokic was flat out balling. Jamal Murray is somebody that has grown on me tremendously. I really like him. He averaged 16.7 a game last year and shot 37% from three-point range. I like Jamal Murray. I'm a fan. I wish the Knicks had him. But more importantly than anything else, you know what I like about looking at this Denver Nuggets squad? You know what I really love? They got a bunch of young thoroughbreds with moxie. They ain't scared of nothing. They're not scared. They can ball, they know it, and they come at you. Sometimes they're undersized. Sometimes experience gets in the way. Sometimes it's just better talent, but you got to beat them. They ain't going to just turn around and let you have your way with them. They don't roll like that. I look at Denver. They got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 guys in double figures. You got another 3 guys averaging at least 8 points a game. They got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 guys averaging double-digit minutes. And now you just added Michael Porter Jr. to that squad. Denver's on the come up, y'all. The Denver Nuggets are on the come up. I'm telling you that right now. And you better look out for them, because I predict they're going to make the playoffs next year. I like what I'm seeing in Denver. I really, really do. And I thought Malone did a hell of a job with them last year. So it's going to be real interesting to see what happens with them. In the case of Atlanta, we all know Trae Young's that story. Here's what I like about it for Atlanta, ladies and gentlemen. We all know a whole bunch of folks migrate to the ATL because it is a lovely city. It really, really is. Excuse my stuttering. Atlanta's lovely. I'll just leave it at that. My point is, Atlanta is a fan base that damn near comes to watch the other teams play. I'm not saying they don't root for their own team. I'm not saying that when the Hawks are relevant and they're balling, that they're not out there trying to cheer their team on. But they're really a team that's coming to see everybody else, as opposed to you. And all I'm saying to you is that Trey Young might have the potential to change all that. If this brother pulls up from the parking lot and starts hitting these kind of shots with his ball handling skills, his vision, I got news for you. Trey Young, clearly Atlanta is looking to make some noise in the box office. You got to get somebody that's going to do that for you. And I think Trey Young has that kind of potential. Sexton out of Alabama might be a little bit better. And playing at Alabama, which is near Atlanta, it ain't Trey Young. Trey Young is boom or bust. That's what he is. Sexton, he's going to be good for you. Colin Sexton, he's going to be good for you. Is he going to be a superstar or not? That depends on his shot-making ability, but he's a rough rider. He's going to go after it. So it's going to be real interesting to see what happens with that. To me, my potential steal of the draft is this kid, Lonnie Walker, out of Miami, going to the San Antonio Spurs. We forgot that San Antonio does actually have a good history of developing talent. And when you look at this kid, Walker, he looks like a bigger, more athletic version of Sexton. And the things this kid is capable of doing, as fiery as he is and the way he goes after it, with him and DeJounte Murray in the backcourt for the San Antonio Spurs, we might be seeing something special for years to come. It remains to be seen whether or not indeed that's going to happen. But I'm here to tell you right now, can't ignore it. You got to pay attention to it. Because the way I'm looking at it right now, I like what I'm seeing. 888-SAY-ESPN, that's the number to call. That's 888-729-3776. Lots of stuff to get into. Dallas and Doncic, Atlanta, and Trey Young, Denver, and Michael Porter Jr. at number 14. I already brought up that, and Lonnie Walker the fourth with the number 18th pick to the San Antonio Spurs. The Indiana Pacers grabbing Aaron Holiday with the 23rd pick. That ain't bad either. That's a big-time pickup by the Pacers. They desperately need a point guard. He's a tough-minded competitor, and him playing alongside Victor Oladipo is not bad. Listen to what they say about him, because I'm reading from Mike Smith and what he had to say about it. Look at this. They call him a pit bull defender who plays bigger than his height because he's only 6'1", with a 6'7" wingspan. He's got a strong frame. He's athletic, all right? Still needs to fine-tune his decision-making and ability to play in traffic, but he's an excellent shooter off the bounce and catch. Plus, he does a great job getting downhill in space. This guy could be one of the top 2 or 3 point guards in the draft. He's special. And we all know how tough-minded his brother is, Drew Holiday, who was at the draft with him last night. We know how Drew can ball. So you got Drew, you got him. If I had a brother like Drew Holiday, not too many people would be questioning my toughness. Because if we know one thing about Drew Holiday, he's tough. He was never a scrub. He could ball when he was in Philly. He could ball now that he's in New Orleans. I'm paying attention to all of this. And oh, by the way, while we're at it, how about those 76ers? Trading the draft rights to Mikal Bridges out of Villanova for Zaire Smith. And Miami's 2021 first-round pick. Now, you got to remember, Mikal Bridges played at Villanova, always wanted to be a 76ers. 76ers draft him. I think his mama works for the organization. They still have to trade him on draft day. I was like, damn. But Zaire Smith can play. And he can defend. And when you look at him with Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid, they might be doing some things in the future in Philadelphia. But I gotta admit, it should inspire confidence from Sixers fans. Franchise is clearly thinking long term. Brett Brown's your interim GM. For him to make that call, give credit where credit is due. It's a brave call on his part. He did the right thing. Because they don't need Bridges as much as they need Zaire Smith. And with Boston getting Robert Williams out of Texas A&M with the number 27th pick, that's just another great move by Danny Ainge. Has the potential to be the steal of the draft. Can block shots. Is a Clint Capella type. If you're Boston, that's what you need. That's what Washington's desperately looking for, but they didn't get it. They didn't get it. They drafted this brother Troy Brown out of Oregon. I don't know why they didn't draft Robert Williams. Maybe that was a bit too high. But Washington with Gortat and Mahinmi are desperately looking for somebody that is going to be able to defend pick and roll situations, play above the rim, be active around the basket. And that ain't Gortat or Mahinmi in the nation's capital. So they need to get somebody to spell for Wall and Beal. I just don't know if that's the right pick. But I know Scott Brooks likes it. You're listening live to Stephen A. on ESPN Radio.
I just saved hundreds of dollars by switching to Geico. I feel like a whole new person.
Disclaimer, you will not become a whole new person. This is impossible. You might be able to join a gym or diet program, buy a new wardrobe, get hair implants, but your DNA and physical form will remain the same. Geico waives any and all liability if you attempt to become a new person, except a cyborg. If you choose to become a half-human, half-cybernetic organism with lasers for eyes, the Geico legal team would be cool with that, because, quote, laser eyes are pretty sweet. Pew, 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 end quote.
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more. You're listening to the Stephen A. Smith Show podcast.
Let's get right to it. Let's go to Anthony. You're live with Stephen A. on ESPN Radio. What's up, Anthony? Talk to me.
Steve, big fan. Thanks for taking the call.
No problem, bro. Go ahead.
Very, very disappointed in my New York Knicks draft last night.
Mm-hmm.
As a team who cannot get any marquee free agents to even forget about sign with us. They won't even take a meeting with us, Steve.
LeBron will give Fizdale dinner. I think he'll do that.
Okay. Well, as a team that can't get anybody to sign with us, then I'll stick with that. How do you not, at number 9, when you get a kid like Michael Porter Jr., who consensus says if he wouldn't have hurt his back in the beginning of the year, would have been either a number 1 or 2 pick. That's not me making that up. That's a fact.
Let's talk about that. Let me tell you why I can listen. I'm a bit reticent about it. I'm a bit hesitant about it. I get you. You're not wrong, Anthony. My problem is that the brother only played 3 games in college because of a back and hip injury. And you're asking the Knicks to draft him at the same time that Porzingis is out, at least until January. And you're trying to make a splash in the summer of 2019. So I get where you're coming from. You're not wrong, but let me put a negative spin on it. Let me be the devil's advocate. What if Porzingis doesn't come back, right? And while he's waiting to come back because he's trying to recover, Michael Porter's durability isn't what you'd like it to be, and he can't go because the NBA game is rougher and tougher, more physical, and obviously longer with superior athletes going up against him. So from a physical standpoint, it could be problematic. What about that reality? And you have to have that lurking over your franchise going into the summer of 2019.
I'll answer that question. You know what that means for us? We're right back in the same position we are now in the draft lottery, hoping to get the number 1 pick. Nothing would change. But if it goes the opposite way, if you let me be the angel on the opposite side of the devil's shoulder, and Michael Porter Jr. turns out to be a superstar, now we have a superstar center, or in Porzingis, who's a unicorn, who could play pretty much any position on the court.
Okay.
And then you have Michael Porter Jr., a 6'10 kid who could stroke the 3.
All right, but what if Kevin Knox does that for you?
Yeah, but you know what, Steve? Kevin Knox, I understand he's 19 years old. I'm not devastated by that pick personally. I would have took Mikal Bridges.
Look, Anthony, I'm running out of time. Here's the deal. With Kevin Knox, folks are not crucifying him. What they're saying about Kevin Knox, the biggest thing that they're saying about Kevin Knox negatively has nothing to do with his game. They're questioning the want-it factor, the fact that he never really seemed to go out there and get it with the exception of his performance at West Virginia. That's what they're saying about him.
When you're the New York Knicks, I know you're running out of time. I appreciate you giving me so much time. But when you're the New York Knicks, and you just can't get anybody worth anything to come to your franchise, and you have the opportunity at 9 to pick a kid who could have been number 1, barring an injury, you have to take that shot
I got you. I appreciate the call, Anthony. Thank you. Let's go to Doc. You're live with Stephen A. on ESPN Radio. What's up, Doc? How are you?
Hey, how's it going, Stephen? How you doing today?
I'm all right. Floor is yours. Go ahead.
Good. I've been listening to you all week, man. Love the show. And what I got a comment about the Kawhi Leonard and the Spurs.
Go ahead.
Yeah. Now, the Spurs, they did a good job in the draft last night. And I think what they're doing with the Kawhi Leonard thing, they're trying to salvage it. And I think the uncle is not looking out for the kid's best interest. And this is where I go with this. If you have to trade Kawhi Leonard, and you tell me what you think about it, I would try to trade him to Washington and get John Wall.
Stop right there. Kawhi Leonard is 26 years old. He turns 27 exactly a week from today. Kawhi Leonard will turn 27 years of age. He has looked the San Antonio Spurs and Greg Popovich in their face and told them he wants out. He wants to be traded. The report is L.A., which is his hometown. Why we got to blame his uncle for that? Is he a child, a toddler? He don't have the power and ability to make his own decisions? This isn't him?
Well, yes, I don't think it's him, because the reason why I don't is because
he's 26 years old. What do you mean it's him? He's 26 years old, and he looked them in their face and told them how he feels. How can I put that on his uncle?
We can guide our kids to do certain things, even.
But he's a man.
Grown.
But he's a man. Ultimately, he's held accountable.
Oh yeah, the buck does fall on him eventually, yes. But when we try to give our kids advice, we try to tell our kids the right and wrong things to do, even when they are adults.
And because they're adults, how many times do they listen to you?
They very far and few.
Thank you.
I agree.
Thank you. So go ahead, but continue. Yeah. Go ahead.
But if they got to get rid of him, I would try to make a deal with Washington that trades him into the East. You get Wall and Kelly Oubre back, even though it's a little less. But you get Wall. Wall would be the linchpin, because
wait a minute.
He's a souped up.
Wait a minute, Doc. Do you give up John Wall for a player that's going to stay with you for 1 year before he's a free agent and free to go to L.A.?
Okay, this is where I was looking at it with Washington. Washington would be willing to do a sign and trade with L.A. and get back players, because I don't think Wall and Beal can coexist. And now you get some talent back to replace Beal, and you're still able to compete in the East.
Doc, that's interesting. I can't rule that out. That's a good point now. That is a good point, because if you engage in a sign and trade, the assets that the San Antonio Spurs would not want, the Lakers would. So if you got something from Washington, that would be great. But here's your problem. I don't think the San Antonio Spurs will want to bring John Wall there in favor of DeJounte Murray. Because I'm not saying that DeJounte Murray is better than Wall yet, because that would be sacrilegious. What I'm saying is that DeJounte Murray has learned under their system, their tutelage. He's a team player. There's no locker room turmoil where he's concerned. And I think that would appeal to San Antonio more so than John Wall. But I get your point, and it's not bad. I understand what your thinking was, and I appreciate it, Doc. Thank you so much. Doc is not off kilter there. Made a valid point. Very valid point. Got to give credit where credit is due there, buddy. 888 say ESPN. It's 888-729-3776. He's basically highlighting how you might not be able to do something with Kawhi Leonard because of what you want in return for his services in San Antonio, but move him somewhere else for 1 year, knowing he's going to leave for L.A. And they may want the assets that L.A. is offering as opposed to you. Problem is, Kawhi would have to bite, and he'd have to tell you he's willing to stay. And once he becomes an unrestricted free agent, he'd be willing to engage in the sign and trade. That's a risky proposition for a team to take, especially with Kawhi Leonard and his uncle. More of your calls on the Stephen A. Smith Show. Plus, I'm going to get into Jameis Winston and why his career in the NFL may very well be in jeopardy. Stick around. Don't touch that dial. You're listening live to Stephen A. on ESPN Radio.
Guess what?
You're in the middle of the Stephen A. Smith Show podcast.
Damn it, I mean it!
The NFL, I need to switch from the NBA draft to this. The NFL, having completed its investigations into allegations that Tampa Bay Buccaneers quarterback Jameis Winston groped an Uber driver, the NFL will be issuing a 3-game suspension to Winston for violating its personal conduct policy, according to our very own Adam Schefter. Winston is yet to be informed of the official punishment, though. Winston was never arrested or charged with the crime for his alleged incident, but the NFL's personal conduct policy is broad and does not carry the same burden of proof as the criminal justice system. According to Jeff Cameron of ESPN Radio, the suspension doesn't necessarily mean that the NFL found Winston guilty of the allegations. Quote, what he'll be suspended over is a failure to report. This is what I do know. The Winston camp is prepared for the NFL to levy a suspension of some kind. Players are obligated, for those of you who don't know, to report any incident that would be a violation of the NFL's personal conduct policy, which reads, quote, clubs and players are obligated to promptly report any matter that comes to their attention through, for example, victim or witness reports, law enforcement or media reports that may constitute a violation of this policy. This obligation to report is broader than simply reporting an arrest. It requires reporting to the league any incident that comes to the club's or players' attention which, if the allegations were true, would constitute a violation of the personal conduct policy. Says here also in the article, however, at the Tampa Times, Rick Stroud disputes that, saying Winston's failure to report the incident is not a factor in the suspension. He said Winston would be suspended for violating the NFL's player conduct policy and not for failure to report the incident. That's where we are. Let me say this. Jameis Winston deserves the 3-game suspension. Matter of fact, wouldn't bother me if the team intervened and added additional games. See, ladies and gentlemen, the problem here is the weakness on the part of the National Football League. Nothing else. It's not complicated. It truly is not complicated. Jameis Winston, for better or worse, is essentially being convicted in a court of public opinion because of his past transgressions. The fact that he was once accused of sexual assault and ultimately that case was settled out of court. The fact that he spoke to a group of kids talking about how a woman should be silent and all of this other stuff. I mean, his reputation precedes him. And so when this latest incident comes up, even though it supposedly, allegedly, purportedly happened in November 16, in November of 2016, by the way, but BuzzFeed revealed it, almost over a year later. I think the incident happened in March of 2016, and BuzzFeed reported it in November of 2017. So that's a year and a half later, which prompted the NFL's investigation. My thing is very, very simple. Why the hell are you in this situation? Why did you find yourself in this situation with all that you've been through it, all that you've overcome, knowing how the NFL is? Why you? Of all people, why you? That's the question that needs to be asked to Jameis Winston. See, to me, the NFL makes it complicated because they conduct their own thorough investigation and they have the mindset that, you know what, we did an investigation and our findings lead us to conclude blah, 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 blah. Not good enough. What did it say? What did you find out? Let us know. Make him have a press conference and address it if you have to. He ain't going to jail. Maybe, just maybe, if you didn't pacify all of these damn athletes and you made them stand front and center and answer questions, since they ain't going to jail, right? Maybe that probing, that interrogation would be such a nuisance, such an annoyance, and something they couldn't hide behind their lawyers or the team PR department or anything like that. Maybe that would serve as a dissuasive measure for finding themselves in these situations. Just a thought. But because everything has to have layers of detachments attached to it, and people are allowed to hide, makes it easier for transgressions to take place. Ever thought about that? Just a thought. In the end, what it comes down to is this. The NFL doesn't need to apologize for anything. They need to just be grown enough to say, look, we're the league, we're private industry, and damn it, you're going to play in our league. You don't impugn our reputation. Because if you do that, it's going to affect our bottom line. And if you affect our bottom line, we're going to affect yours. Very, very simple. They did it with Big Ben Roethlisberger. He was never arrested, but they suspended him 6 games and reduced it to 4. They've done it before. They could do it again. People need to learn better. The NFL will be included in that. 888-SAY-ESPN. That's 888-729-3776. Hour number 2 up next. Head coach for the Dallas Mavericks, Rick Carlisle, with his new draft pick. He's up next with Stephen A. on ESPN Radio.
That's just a sample of what you'll hear on the Stephen A. Smith Show. Weekdays at 1 p.m. Eastern on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app.